Hello, welcome. Today, we're tackling a common Lua error, attempt to index a nil value. This error pops up when you try to access a table or object that doesn't exist or hasn't been assigned a value yet. It can be frustrating, but understanding the causes and how to fix them will make your Lua coding experience much smoother. Let's dive in and learn how to resolve this error. First, understand what nil means in Lua. Nil essentially means nothing. A variable set to nil has no value. The error happens when you try to use that variable as if it were a table. Next, let's identify common causes. One reason is simple typos. Check the spelling of your variable names. A small typo can make Lua think you're using a different variable that hasn't been initialized. Another common mistake is forgetting to initialize a variable. Before you try to access a table's fields, make sure that table actually exists and has been assigned a value. For example, local myTable equals creates an empty table. Without this, myTable.someValue will throw an error. Scope issues can also cause this. A variable defined inside a function might not be accessible outside that function. Make sure the variable is within the correct scope where you're trying to use it. Now, let's talk about how to fix these errors. The most important step is careful debugging. Print the value of the variable right before the line that's causing the error. Use print myTable before myTable.someValue. If it prints nil, then you know myTable is the problem. Use conditional statements to check if a variable is nil before using it. For instance, if myTable then myValue equals myTable.someValue end. This prevents the error if myTable is nil. Another technique is defensive programming. Initialize your variables with default values to avoid them being nil unexpectedly. For example, instead of just declaring local myTable, initialize it with local myTable equals. When working with functions that might return nil, always check the return value. If a function can return nil under certain circumstances, handle that possibility in your code. Remember that the attempt to index a nil value error is telling you that you are trying to use something that doesn't exist. Trace back from the error to see where the table should have been created and ensure it's properly initialized and within the correct scope. Careful attention to variable names and initialization will prevent this error and make your Lua programs more robust. This error is a common stepping stone for new programmers, so don't get discouraged if you encounter it. Keep practicing and debugging and you will become proficient. Remember to double-check your code, use debugging techniques, and embrace the learning process. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe. Consider supporting the channel for more Lua tutorials and helpful content. Your support means a lot.